Within the Leadership Legacy of Narendra Modi by Dr. R. Balasubramaniam is a study of the leadership abilities embodied by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, based on timeless Indian principles. This is the fourth launch of the book after Delhi, Bangalore, and Mysore. I now invite Dean ISP, Professor Madan M. Pillutla, the author of the book, Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, Dr. Nagraj Paturiji, Shri Narasimha Sharma, and Shri Raghava Krishna, the founder of Brahat, to light the lamp.
And she said, nothing doing. You're still unhappy because she says, I shouldn't have used diacritics. I should have written the actual Sanskrit. And I told her, this is a global book. No, and we want acceptance. As much as we want to accept what comes from the Western world, we also have to get acceptance of whatever our thoughts are. And I have tried, and Madan was so beautiful and eloquently described everything I've tried, and it's perfect. You hit the nail on the head. I'm not trying to deride anything, and I'm neither trying to romanticize Indian stuff. I think we all walk a fine line. There's a lot of trash in our past which we have to throw away, but there's a lot of greatness which we got to remember. The baby and the bathwater can't be thrown out together. So we have to capture which is relevant today. And we're an excellent recording of a podcast, and Deepa, as always, was tough and demanding. And she was very challenging, and I think I've answered all that there, so you can listen to the podcast later. But it's a struggle to say what is relevant and what can be used in today's context, because it's nice to glorify our past, but if it's not going to be useful to build a future, what's the point in trying to understand it? So I've tried to only use those theories which I think has relevance today. The advantage of being trained in the West, in institutions like Harvard for me, is they offer a lot. And at least, and again, Madan said it so beautifully, when the professors actually challenge you with ideas, and classrooms where you can actually challenge the professors those days. Nowadays, it's become very different. American campuses are different to a point where I decided I'll not be teaching from this year onwards, there at least. So it's a different situation. So I have tried to make it relevant, I've tried to make it intelligent, and it's practical. And I should say, the real proof of the pudding for me was when extraordinary people whom I know, and who I know people who actually read the manuscript, because none of them would say, I'll write it. When I approached Nitin, a good friend, he said, you know me, Baru, it's not friendship that's going to help me decide, it's just going to be your manuscript. And until I read that, I won't even tell you I'll write the foreword. And he actually read it, and you can read his foreword, it's a very nicely written one. And every single person who's endorsed the book, from Bill Gates to Anand Mahindra to N. Chandra to even a tribal woman who literally grew up. I delivered her actually, her mother rather, as a baby in the forest, and then she went to my school, and she's today an entrepreneur on her own. And so she also has written an endorsement. So for me, it's a wide variety of people who could resonate with these leadership principles. So it's a book for academic work, which can be taken deeper. I would like to be challenged. I know there are different views. Our scriptures themselves are very interpretational, and so somebody will say my interpretations are wrong, and that's fair. And I'm very open about it. It's my interpretation, and so whatever I could understand, I've written. If there's a better understanding, I'm willing to relook at it. And it's also a fact that it's easy to get lost in this noise of today. So I would request you to judge the book by what is inside. Read it, and don't get carried away by the noise outside. It's very difficult to insulate ourselves today. I've tried my best to insulate myself, keep objectivity, keep intellectual integrity, and give myself the space of interpretation. I've also said that, considered that. And I'm not a scientist because I wanted to buy it. Professor Madan, and it's an honor and a privilege for two reasons for me to be in Hyderabad to launch this book. One is ISB as an institution is something was so distant for me in a sense. And then once I started to know people, I understood how humanized this institution was. So that's my first way of putting it. And the second was how deeply committed. We always imagine business schools are only for the corporate world. And somehow it forms a stereotype in your mind. And then you don't even want to understand anything else that negates it. Once I started interacting with Madan and other professors, Deepa and others, their commitment and conviction that they got to partner with government to make this country a better place. And the best part was, I could just pick up the phone and say, I have no money to give you. I only got a problem to state and you help me with the solution. And unfailingly, the last 3 years, it's been a great journey. We've had a lot of work we have done together, and I'm proud that a lot of learning in terms of real knowledge is getting transferred to several millions of officers across the government. So thank you again for partnering. The second reason for me, Hyderabad is a very dear place. Is the research happened. I would possibly say Hyderabad, but these people today in the world of internet, young people sit all over the country. So Anshuman, Akshay. Anshuman has been my lead researcher. And I really want to thank him for it. Within the Brihat team, everybody in Brihat has had great contribution. Raghav is a friend. I don't even see him as a researcher. So, and Kavita ji with her own demands of the purest nature she is. And it has to be purist. No compromises on that. And Simran, who did the wonderful sketches. And so the way, everything was an idea which, the author gets the credit because that's what the names are there for. But there's so many people behind you to actually make a book out of it. Writing it was difficult, like Madan said, and a full-time job with the Prime Minister who seems to not sleep at all. It's not easy because there's no weekend, there's nothing like that, and it's fun. Working in Delhi has been a great learning experience for me because I recognize friends like Amit are here, and the extraordinary leadership in the civil services, in the government ecosystem, which is hardly recognized, but always complained about, is something which I went in with that stereotype, and the last 3 years has helped me change how the government has actually changed me. How much of I can change the government is left for the next few years to judge. So it's made me, in a positive way I meant, it's made me recognize the extraordinary circumstances, the kind of resource constraints under which leadership gets expressed in the public space within the country. More importantly for me, this book is a personal journey. I used to, obviously the research was a lot, but I used to get up at 3 in the morning and write. Because I was very conscious about the ethical demands I make on myself. For 9 o'clock would be office time and that's it. And rest of the time was whatever I did. And therefore I had to call you at 7 in the evening or 6 in the morning. And I have troubled Anshuman all odd times because I would teach at Cornell and where I did most of the writing. And so it didn't even bother me that I'm in US time and he's in India time. I would just say I want this sorted out now because I'm writing now and I need it. And he'd always respond. He's never said no to me. And so I really want to thank you, Anshuman. Manuscript is easy to put out, but then making it a book and making it a published book is the next big challenge. All my earlier books, this is my 9th book, all my earlier books were either published by Cornell University Press or by Graham here, so it was a different thing. A place which knows you, and so for them it's just, they just want a book, and so I give it, and they have their own standards, but it's easier. But going to a professional publisher who's also interested in markets and who also want to say whether the book has got a space for the book in the market, and then should they be writing about it. And in a polarized world, when you take calls based on optics rather than on content, the challenges were there. But to be fair, the only publisher I spoke to first, the first publisher we spoke to was Penguin. And they were very professional. And they said, we'll read the book. We will definitely come back to you on this. And within 3-4 days, they reached out and said, we have to publish this book. And the reason they explained this was so beautiful. The vice president publishing called me and said, she said, we were concerned it could be in hagiography, and we were not keen on publishing it if it's a hagiography. So we wanted to read it. That's the only reason we want to read it. Now that we have read it, we are concerned that it will go to somebody else, so we want to publish it. So we are going to publish it. And so they've been an extremely great supporter, because today's world, you need a legal team to check whether I'll get sued and somebody will get defamed. And so they have their own teams, the copy editing team, the legal teams, all the kinds of teams they have, the creative teams. So I must thank them for being part of this journey. But finally, without a protagonist to write about, I needed a flesh and blood example, something which will make us feel we can relate to him. And writing about a person with a 78% approval rating, writing about a person you report to is dangerous. Because you can get carried away by the charisma that you're exposed to and become subjective. And I value my intellectual integrity, and so I had to walk the thin edge of saying, am I really, and extremely mindful. I rewritten the book 32 times. I kept track actually. I want to make sure that anything I put out there, I'll stand by it. So I can speak with conviction that whatever I've written there is based on what I discovered, either in observational analysis of mine, experiential anecdote that I went through, or through direct conversations with the Honorable PM himself, and through people who report to him. And it's a journey of 50 years. Studying a person for 50 years, you can't do it in one book. So my colleagues at Cornell had a nice way of putting it. They said each chapter is several PhD. So unless students take it and actually work on it and build the book.
So it's a pleasure and an honor to be here to be the Hyderabad.
I would call it a unique book because it's the first book which looks at Indic appreciation of leadership from an Indic lens, and from I bring in scriptures, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Jataka tales, Panchatantra, Subhashitas, and analyzes Prime Minister Modi's leadership. It is not about something in the past, it's about using knowledge of civilizational wisdom to analyze a current sitting Prime Minister and see what drives his leadership performance. I also offer it as a solution for the world. How today's world is full of wicked problems, post-COVID we're all seeing it, how this knowledge can help make this world a better place. It's also unique in the fact that it's a global book, it's a prescription for global leadership. It combines the best of leadership knowledge from the West with the best that Indian civilization wisdom offers, and putting it together as the way forward for all of us.
Okay.
నా పేరు రాఘవ కృష్ణ. ఇక్కడ బృహత్ అని మన సంస్థ కల్చరల్ మన సాంస్కృతిక పద్ధతుల మీద రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తాం. ఈ పుస్తకం ఇవాళ బాలసుబ్రహ్మణ్యం గారు రచించిన పుస్తకం మోడీ గారి నేతృత్వం మీద ఇవాళ లాంచ్ చేశారు. దానికి మనం 2 ఏళ్ళు దీని మీద రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తాం. మోడీ గారి నేతృత్వం అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి మన భారతీయ ధర్మశాస్త్రాలు, భారతీయ దృష్టి. ఈ బుక్ మోడీ గారి గురించి కాదు, ఈ బుక్ భారతీయ సంస్కృతి గురించి. మన లీడర్షిప్ థియరీ ఏంటి, మన దాంట్లో నాయకత్వ లక్షణాలు ఏంటి, ఆ లక్షణాన్ని మనం ఈ మనుషులు ఎలా చూస్తున్నాము, దానివల్ల సంస్కృతికి ఉన్న లాభం ఏంటి. ఈ బుక్ ఇది ప్రజలకు తెలియజేయడానికి మీరందరూ ఎంకరేజ్ చేస్తాం. థ్యాంక్ యూ.